New draft set to begin immediately.
The heads of the Commission on the National Defense Strategy told the Senate Armed Services Committee that the United States is nowhere near prepared for the dangerous multi-threat environment it's facing.
A new draft is set to begin immediately. The U.S. military is recommending a new draft. Guys, this is not clickbait. Watch the end of the video to understand why the U.S. military is now recommending a new draft start immediately, what the implications this will be, and why women will not be allowed to sit on the sidelines this time. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Has no idea how great the threats are.
Commission Chairman Representative Jane Harman and Vice Chair Ambassador Eric Edelman issued a dire warning to the committee Tuesday.
The homeland, if there's a conflict, is not going to be a sanctuary anymore, and the first attacks will likely be in the cyber domain, and they will be incredibly disabling.
The public is essentially clueless about the massive cyber attacks that could be launched any day by our adversaries, not just nation states, but rogue actors as well.
The report warns a cyber war with China or Russia would be devastating. America's critical infrastructure would come under attack, possibly cutting off power, water, transportation, and financial systems, and shutting down the supply chain. The report states major war would affect the life of every American in ways we can only begin to imagine. The report echoes a warning FBI Director Christopher Wray gave Congress.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens and communities if and when China decides the time has come to strike.
One of the things we might anticipate, for example, is if China decides to annex Taiwan or whatever euphemism they might use, they might engage in a major cyber attack here first, for which we are underprepared.
The commission found the U.S. defense sector lacking in almost every area, including integrated weapons technology platforms and software. With recruitment levels for all branches lagging, America needs a larger fighting force, and the hearing discussed lowering physical standards for recruits and even instituting a draft.
We found that the joint force is at the breaking point of maintaining readiness today. Adding more burden without adding resources to rebuild readiness will cause it to break.
And with so many cyber threats, the commission also said the Pentagon must find a way to somehow lure the best and brightest computer minds away from Silicon Valley and into national service.
Lure the best and brightest minds away from Silicon Valley and into military service. This is a very leftist group of people, and you're going to lure these people. In other words, the U.S. has to find a way to threaten these people enough to force them into serving in the military. And keep in mind, a lot of these people smoke pot, and use other kinds of drugs. And you're going to get these people to go and serve in the military because they should sacrifice their lives for their country or else. Because they're not going to go. The only way that they're going to do this is under threat. And now here's where things get even more frightening. The best minds in Silicon Valley are not Gen Zers. The best minds in Silicon Valley are people in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, and even in their 60s. This should be very, very concerning because really what they're saying is that they're looking for old men to go fight wars for them. Guys, Gen Z is in a complete disarray right now. They can't even fight for themselves. There's the reports. So when I started doing research for this video, my numbers were off, but not because I overestimated, but because I underestimated. The actual numbers are insane. Someone actually, I basically quoted a statistic that saying that 70% of Gen Zers, are mentally ill. I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. Someone said, no, it's more like 100%. Guys, it should not be anywhere near possible, but I'll just get to it. So Gen Z more likely to report mental health concerns, and specifically 75% of Gen Z members said that they're under significant amounts of stress. But to make matters worse, more than 9 out of 10 Gen Zers reported mental illness. Yeah, guys, you heard me right. More than 9 out of every 10 Gen Zers it's more than 9 in 10 Gen Z Gen Z adults, 91% said they've experienced mental illness and at least one physical or emotional symptom because of stress, such as depression, sadness, lacking interest, motivation, or energy. Oh, this is unbelievable. And then on top of that, only half of all Gen Zers feel like they do enough to manage their stress. So over 91% are reporting some form of mental illness. But to make matters worse, of the total population of Gen Zers, 25% of them, again, this should not even be possible, are suffering from long-term mental illness. Meaning these are people who are essentially disabled. They have serious mental health issues. They meet the definition of mental disability, and people that could essentially file for disability and completely drop out of society. So a quarter of Gen Zers are basically, we're going to just have to pay for them. Like, there's no hope left. There's almost no hope left for these people. All right. This was actually a study from the UK. This is a study from the UK. It just came out. That's Gen Zers in the UK. Now, in terms of the actual draft itself, and you guys can see from the video that you watched, they are saying that, hey, we need to start instituting a draft immediately because we can't even take care of ourselves. We don't have enough people to serve. The draft, let me put it this way. 50 years ago, we had almost 2 million people serving in the military reserves. That was 50 years ago. Today, we have less than 200,000. So our military reserves is roughly only 10% of what it was 50 years ago, and it's falling, and it's falling rapidly. Yeah. Especially as Gen Xers are getting older and aging out, and millennials are also aging out, our military draft is now set to fall to as low as 5% of what it was 50 years ago. 5%. And there are lunatics saying that we do not need boots on the ground. China cannot do anything. They have their own problems. We don't need to worry about, other countries have their hands full. Guys, this is madness. These people are sniffing a ton of copium. In terms of Gen Z, another study, and this came out in 2020, but it took statistics from 2017 through 2019, and then they released it in 2020. The military, this came from the U.S. Pentagon. So the United States military, the Pentagon, y'all. 77% of young Americans too fat, mentally ill, on drugs, and more to join military. This was from a Pentagon study. You cannot go any higher than the U.S. Pentagon. And this was from data that they compiled between the years of 2017 and 2019. They had a study that they released in 2017, which was really bad. Then they compiled data from 2017 through 2019, released it in 2020. They deemed that 77% of Gen Z men are not able to serve in the U.S. military because they're too fat, they're too mentally ill, too mentally incompetent, or on drugs. Okay? This is crazy, insane stuff. A Pentagon study revealed that 77% of young Americans who do not qualify for military service without a waiver due to being overweight, drug use, or mental or physical problems. When considering youth disqualified for one reason alone, the most prevalent disqualification rates are overweight, drug and alcohol abuse and medical/physical health. The Pentagon's 2020 qualified military available study of Americans between ages 17 and 24 read. Several key findings were noted in the summary of this report. For example, most ineligible youth, 44%, are disqualified for multiple reasons rather than in one area. So not only are they being disqualified, but it's not just one specific area. It's a multiple areas in most cases. They're either fat or too overweight, too mentally ill, and drug abusers. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Oh God, they all go hand in hand. Among those ineligible for only one reason, being overweight was the highest disqualification at 11%. Drug use was 8%. Medical/physical only 7%, and mental health was 4%, were the other leading categories found in the study. All right, so this is crazy. This is crazy. So the largest increases in disqualification estimates observed between 2013 and 2020 were for mental health and overweight conditions. So mental illness and mental incompetence and being overweight were the things that grew the most over 2020, over from 2013 to 2020. Keep in mind, again, all of this information was compiled between 2020 and 20 between 2013 and 2020. But this is not their first study. The first study they released back in 2017, and then they compiled even more data from 2017 to 2019, and then released it in 2020, and things just got even worse. Another key finding was the proportion of youth both eligible and not currently enrolled in college was only 12%. The concern over the shrinking pool of potential recruits has grown in recent years. And guys, again, they're basically saying that they need to start recruiting. They need to begin recruiting immediately, drafting immediately. Not just Gen Zers, but anyone they can draft to start filling out the military, not to prepare for war, but just to actually have people who can protect the country, serve in situations of national disaster. Guys, when we have a national disaster, the people that, if when all is in doubt, the people that show up are the military, members of the Coast Guard, the Army Reserve. These are the people that have to go and and handle infrastructure. Our military is much more than self-defense. It's literally helping the country when we have national disasters. Okay, this is crazy on every single level, on every level. We cannot take care of ourselves. It's not just about self-defense. It's about health. It's about infrastructure. It's everything. And we don't have that anymore. And it's fallen down to this point. We will guys, all of these millennials and Gen Xers that are basically that will be leaving the military soon. Okay? That's going to drop. We're going to be down to 5%. 5%, all right, of what our military reserves were 50 years ago. Okay? And to make matters worse, as you can see, we need specialists. We need computer specialists. Guys, Gen Z can't code. They're lazy, all right? And these people, and all of these older people, they're not going to leave their comfy jobs in Silicon Valley to go serve their country, a country that they have very, very negative views on.
Becoming a national security issue, the military not reaching recruitment goals to refill the ranks, the shortfalls impacting some branches more than others. A Pew Research Center report showing that only 23% of young people actually even qualify for the military, and the majority of Americans 18 to 29 have a negative view of the armed forces altogether. So News Nation's Ryan Bass is looking into this. And Ryan, I'm interested, with such a decline, could we see mandatory military service becoming something that we start to see again?
You know, Anna, politicians on both sides agree that this is a really big crisis here in terms of military recruitment numbers. But it seems pretty far-fetched from anyone we've spoken to that a president could enact some sort of mandatory military service to try and fix that problem. I mean, we haven't had a draft since 1973, and enlisting in the service is voluntary right now here in the U.S. We spoke with Lieutenant General Richard Newton. He's a former U.S. Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff and also a News Nation contributor. He's spent over 3 decades in our military. He called our recruitment efforts a national security crisis, but can't fathom people being forced to serve.
I don't think it's realistic at all in that regard. I think, domestic politics aside, I think it would be a very difficult thing to mandate that all eligible males and females, for that matter, serve in the United States military. I think if you flood the ranks of the services, I think that does a disservice to the capabilities and effectiveness of our fighting force, as well as those who volunteer.
Now, General Newton said, Anna, that the key is offering more support to our military personnel when they go into communities to recruit.
Also seeing polls that show younger Americans are not as patriotic as older Americans. You wonder if that has something to do with it. Why do you think, or what are you learning anyway, about the military recruitment numbers being so low? What's the cause?
So officials in the Department of Defense say that the challenges here are complex and multifaceted. One of the reasons is we are in a strong labor market. Anytime the economy is on the uprise, you start to see some of these military recruitment numbers slim down.
We are in a strong labor market. The jobs report that came out, the BS jobs report that came out, showed that jobs had fallen significantly, just to over 100. New jobs to be created were just over 100,000, and most of those jobs were in government. There are almost no new jobs being created by the private sector. Okay. Small business is dying in the United States. We know that what drives the economy is not large business. Microsoft and Meta and all these other companies, Amazon, they don't drive the economy. It's small business that is the backbone of the economy, and small businesses are not creating jobs right now. So this is a massively insane. And then what does the media say? Oh, we have a strong labor market. People cannot find jobs right now. All right, people are struggling to find jobs. Gen Z is being trolled by employers who are half of all employers say that they don't even hire Gen Zers. They won't even hire them. Okay, this is an insane situation that we're in. Oh, the reason why people don't want to serve in the military is because it's strong. It's because of a strong labor market. You've got to be kidding me, guys. We are being so gaslit. It's like they're trying to collapse everything around us. And men are walking away. Men realize that they are just slaves. As men, we are just slaves with special privileges. Okay? And we are not free. We are slaves with special privileges. Slaves with special privileges that can be taken away at any moment. That's the honest to goodness truth. If you look at how we are treated, how we are punished, just because we are allowed to leave the country doesn't never means that we are free of the country. All right? Look at what's happening in the Philippines, where now they've reduced it down to 2 months, where you can only stay in the Philippines for 2 months at a time without having to go and get an extension. It used to be 6 months. All right. And the reason why they're doing it is not because of the Philippines. They're doing it because the Philippines is doing it not because they want Americans gone. It's because America is putting pressure on them, because the men with money are the best minds in the world, the best minds in the United States are walking away and taking all of their money over there. And they're not producing. So they're not spending their money in the U.S. and they're not producing for the U.S. anymore. Whenever we enter into a crisis or war, what do? They bar all the men 18 and older from being allowed to leave the country. The women can travel freely. The men are forced to stay. They think that in a country where men are demoralized and have had their lives actively ruined by the state, and women are given special privileges while men are given special punishments, and then told that they're privileged. You're privileged slaves. Okay, now you need to go and fight in your military. Guys, they know, the U.S. military knows that they should not be trying to force slaves to join the military. All right. It has to be something that you choose to do willingly. All right. I actually talked about it in another video, which is actually very, very serious. Talked about it in another video where even in the Roman Empire, slaves were barred from serving in the military. They served in various different roles. Even some even served as physicians, secretaries, a number of different positions, but they were barred from serving in the U.S. They were barred from serving in the Roman military. Okay, and forcing men to go and serve in the military. Like, there's some stupidity I'm hearing from some guys who are like, oh, you just, like, Gen Z, put them on the front line if they don't want to defend their country. Let's be realistic. They have no reason to defend this country. The country does not even like them. All right. Why would you send them over there? They are demoralized, broken, and miserable. And sending them over there, guys, that's one of the most evil things you can do. That's one of the most evil things. Ask not what you can do. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That's a load of bull crap. People fought for their country because there was a social contract where basically you fight for your country, you protect your country. We will give you status, respect, a wife, a house, kids, the little stupid dog, and a 2-car garage with the cars. All right. All right. Basically, you give us everything and we're going to give you everything. We're going to give you the American dream. That contract has been broken a long time ago. It was broken by society. It was broken by women in Western society. All right. So men are now walking away. And this notion that to be a real man, you need to sacrifice. To be a man, you must sacrifice. And so men are just like, okay, well, you know what? You keep the label man, because to be a man, you have to live up to the standards of others, while to be a woman, you just have to identify. Yeah, I'll either go identify as a woman, or I'll just basically sit this out. All right, and watch everything go to hell. As you guys can see here, in ancient Rome, slaves played various roles in society. While they were not permitted to serve in the Roman army, they were involved in other aspects of life. Unskilled or low-skilled slaves worked in fields, mines, and mills, while skilled and educated slaves held positions such as artisans, chefs, and personal attendants. Interestingly, some slaves were even educators, secretaries, and physicians. However, military service was off limits to them, and legal texts explicitly forbade it. Roman generals did acquire slaves through campaigns abroad, but these captives were not used as soldiers. Instead, they were sold into servitude. So, while slaves were an integral part of Roman society, their role did not extend to military service. And I want you guys to notice this very important part of the text. Legal text explicitly forbade it. You do not want to make slaves you do not want to put slaves in the military and tell them that they need to go and serve and protect their country, the country that has enslaved them. They tried something very similar to this in the U.S. Back in the 1990s, they actually did use slaves. You're going to say, what? Angry, we don't have slaves in the U.S. We actually do. If you are a prisoner in the U.S., you are considered a slave. And back in the 1990s, they told prisoners they had a choice. They can go and serve their sentence in prison, or they can join the U.S. military and serve in the military. So they took a bunch of prisoners, had them serve in the U.S. military, and sent them overseas to go fight in Desert Storm. It was a huge failure. We ended up with situations of deserters, friendly fire, and among a variety of other things. And that's when they realized, yeah, you don't have slaves serving in your military. You don't have slaves serving in your military. You don't have prisoners serving in your military. You should not have people in the military who don't want to be there, or who did not volunteer to be there. You have to have a voluntary military, or else you're going to end up with people that will jeopardize the lives of others. It won't be effective. It absolutely won't be effective. And telling them, oh, you're doing it for the love of country, and it's a privilege to sacrifice yourself. That's what it means to be a man, and your reward will be waiting for you in heaven. Guys, that's something that you hear in authoritarian countries. All right? Like, that's the total BS that Hugo Chavez was on when he would get on television. when he would get on television and start singing. Yes, this actually happened. And we can see what's going on in Venezuela now. Guys, what the future is going to be, look like it's going to be horrible. We likely will see mandatory military service. That's what they're pushing for right now. There's a bill in Congress that is set to force it's set to automatically register all men and women between the ages of 18 and 24 for the draft, and it'll be done automatically. Okay, so women are going to find themselves overseas. They're going to find them not even just overseas. They're going to find themselves having to serve. Okay, and your punishment, if you're not a piece of crap, if you're not a delinquent, if you're not lazy, if you're not fat, if you're not mentally incompetent, your reward for this will be military service. Can you imagine, like, guys, could you imagine being forced, like being told, well, you did everything right, and now you're going to have to go and sacrifice your life for a country that hates you? If you had just done what all the other kids had done, developed a mental illness, used drugs, and gotten fat, then this wouldn't be happening to you. In fact, you'd be allowed to go and collect disability, stay home, play video games all day, sleep and fart while being comforted, and told that it's none of your fault. Dear, dear, dear. All right? You'd be given cookies and rewards. Guys, this is going to end very poorly. It's likely going to end in a lot of conflict within the states. It's going to end with a lot of people protesting. It's going to result in having people who don't want to, who will literally sabotage the military. It's going to be an absolute nightmare. And of course, men are going to be blamed for it all. And we're going to be blamed for it. They're going to start. This is when they This is when they literally start saying stupid stuff like, okay, well, we need to, you get special privileges. For example, you like to play video games. Well, no video games for you if you don't do military service. We're like, that's a privilege. Video games are a privilege. Want to watch movies? Oh, you gotta do some military service. So they basically start taking away freedoms. That's what they did during the fall of Roman Empire, when men basically stopped marrying because women were running off with Chad and Tyrone. Men stopped marrying, so they began taking away human rights, taking away basic rights from men. They began punishing them. They began showing them, you really are, you're property of the empire. And the empire was basically went down this path. That's how Robert wrote it out. The empire was no longer producing anything. Children of Chad and Tyrone were unfit. This is what happened after no fault divorce, and women began divorcing their husbands and running off with gladiators. Everything in the empire went to subsidize lives of women. They had no army. Men refused to serve. They had to pay barbarians. Barbarians realized that the emperor had no clothes and pillaged the empire. We were plunged into 1,000 years of darkness. That's a perfect summary, y'all. Perfect summary. All right. And this is essentially where we are headed right now. And men will do not a damn thing to get involved, because most men have woken up and realized that we live in a society that hates us and blames us. Why the hell would you fight for such a society? All right. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to our newsletter for my personal thoughts, insights, and a free copy of my ebook, The Blueprint for Escaping the Rat Race. Click the link in the description to get your free copy. Where is this all leading, guys? The future, where everything is leading, is that more than likely a draft, I do think it's possible a draft will actually be reinstituted based on what they've said. The military, the Pentagon is recommending that we institute a draft immediately. Okay, they are recommending that we institute a draft immediately. It does not get any more direct than that. I think it's very possible it will happen, but it's not going to be Gen Zers filling out the ranks. They're going to be coming after millennials, and they're going to be coming after Gen Xers. They really better be careful with Gen Xers, because these are people who served multiple tours. And if they I've seen a lot of Gen Xers say they better be careful whose doors they knock on. But one thing that we do know is that this is going to result in a lot of protest and a lot of division and a lot of disparity and despair. Let me know what you guys think regarding all of this, and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. and cheers.